Okay, thanks a lot. So I'm Professor Shushma Patel, and I'm a Professor of Information Systems, which is a computing discipline. I'm Pro Vice Chancellor Student Experience and Dean for the Faculty of Computing, Engineering and Media at De Montfort University.
Could you share with us your journey and inspiration that led you to a career in computing and academia?
Yeah, sure. It was really a career by accident into computing in particular. So my background is in biochemistry, microbiology. I did a PhD in dermatology. So how did that lead me to computing? Simple. We talk about data now and we talk about big data, but data and big data has always been around, and in particular in medical research, which was where my background came. So I did a lot of data analysis, and that led me into computing and also into academia. So I worked in academia, but my role was more research focused and teaching medics, consultants, GPs, students who wanted to, or professionals who wanted to develop their expertise in medical microbiology and dermatology. So a very specialized area, but mainstream, or what I would call university, different type of university, where we teach undergraduate students, postgraduate students and research students, is my career in computing mainly.
So, being this historically male-dominated field, did this had any impact in your path to follow this career?
It didn't really. Like I said, I came into computing by accident. My focus was always research in medical research, and in particular microbiology and biochemistry. But the skills I acquired in computing or data analysis enabled me to come into computing. So the focus wasn't on gender, and it wasn't that it was a male-dominated environment. It was purely by accident. But once I became an academic in computing, yes, it was noticeable that there's less diversity actually. So it's not just males which dominate. There is, that intersectional aspect, the diversity, not just in gender, but ethnicity, etc., was prominent. You could feel the difference.
I see. So, in what ways do you think diversity contributes to innovation and progress in the world of computing? And how have you seen this firsthand in your academic pursuits?
I think it contributes hugely in computing and diversity in every discipline, to be honest. It's about different perspectives, different ideas that can be generated by having that diversity. So you can have different viewpoints, which I think is really, really important in computing. And I've seen it firsthand when I started in computing, because I was able to bring different perspectives into the job that I was doing when I entered computing. So either as a researcher or as a lecturer, I could see the impact that diversity had, not just in terms of student support, but in the subject discipline as well, looking at a problem from different perspectives, and perspectives that maybe my male colleagues hadn't thought about or considered, or may have considered and not really picked up on as much as I did. So one example was developing assessments that were inclusive, rather than just focus on deliver it in a particular way, giving the opportunity for our students to have options and to enable them to identify a particular approach to an assessment, which was more inclusive than just, here's the assessment, do it this way. So I think it brings lots of ideas, lots of opportunities and different perspectives. That's not to say that my perspective is the ideal one, but at least you can share ideas, you can have that discussion, and you can identify the best possible outcome from all the different ideas.
Could you highlight a specific project or research that you have been involved in that showcases the intersection of your academic expertise and its impacts on society or technology?
Yeah, there are quite a few, but one in particular really stands out for me. I did a project. It was a knowledge transfer partnership with Faber Music. And we hear about illegal download of music, and that's mainly oral music, but a very small proportion of the population can read sheet music, so can actually read music. And Faber Music have the copyrights and the rights for a back catalogue, it ranges from classical to contemporary to modern pop, etc. And what they were finding was that their music was being illegally downloaded. And so I worked on a project with them to ensure that we could find a mechanism using technology. So we created a hub whereby their back catalogue was available to the public. They could select particular pieces of music that they wanted. It was correct because, again, when it's created illegally, you hear something and then you create that as a piece of sheet music, it may not be correct. And so it was a proper corrected sheet music, which the public could buy and accessible to them. And it also meant that schools, choirs, performances, orchestras, etc., could also purchase the relevant music as well. So that was accurate music, but it also enabled individual musicians, bands, etc., who didn't have an outlet for their sheet music to actually also sell on that particular platform. So what the hub enabled Faber Music to do was to legally sell music to at a very, very cost-effective price to the public, but more importantly, and the impact both technologically and societal was music was available to more people. It meant that the copyright and the royalties were managed better as well. So money went to the individuals or the areas that it was meant to go to. So in terms of royalties, the other thing is that it's very territorial in terms of copyright is you only have copyright in certain regions of the world. So if Faber had it in the UK or in Europe, they couldn't sell it in America, etc. With the advent of the web, etc., it became very difficult to manage illegal download of music, sheet music, and then not manage that territory copyright. It enabled them to manage that territory copyright as well. So the funds went to where it was, the money went to where it needed to go to. They could manage copyright, and also the hub enabled access to sheet music to a much wider population, not just for consuming, but also for selling.
Obviously, mentorships and role models play a significant role in career development. Could you tell us who were your role models and mentors and what influences they had?
Yeah, I struggled. So my mentors were all male. Mm-hmm. You know, when you talk about a male-dominated environment, I think that was really interesting, but important as well, because, you know, in a male-dominated environment, to have male mentors, but especially male sponsors, was really, really key for me in my career, and especially as a professional in computing. So they sponsored me. They were the ones who pushed me. They were the ones who said, yes, you can do it. You know, they were the ones who encouraged me to progress. And so there are a couple of really key individuals. One was the head of school who appointed me when I moved from medical research into computing. And he was really keen on bringing that diversity and the diversity of thinking into what was then the School of Computing, Information Systems and Mathematics. And his view was that it was important to have more females within the school, but also important to bring in people from different disciplines who understood computing, but were able to bring in skills from different areas as well. And I was fortunate to find someone like that who was willing to sponsor me and mentor me as well.
Women's contributions in computing have often been overlooked in history. Can you share a story or example of a female in computing history that you think that she deserves more recognition of their work?
Yeah, there's not one single woman. I think all women in computing through history need recognition. So Ada Lovelace definitely, a key person, came from a very privileged background. Grace Hopper, all of those are really important. But the ones that are really significant for me are the NASA women. They are important to me. So Mary Jackson, Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, really important because they represent women in computing who have had such huge impact on the space race, first of all, but on computing, and because they were women of color as well. So, that intersectional, that diversity aspect. And in particular, it was in a period of time where in the States was very discriminatory. Mm-hmm. And so all of those things make them really, really special. Without them, arguably, we may not have been, or the States may not have been in the space race, which enabled them to be. So I think for me, it's those women who didn't come from privileged backgrounds, who didn't have, having said that, who didn't come from privileged backgrounds, who had to fight against discrimination because of their ethnicity, because of their color. Is really important. But having said that they weren't women of privilege, I'm sure Ada Lovelace in that period was a real pioneer because women weren't meant to be intellectual. They're not. It was felt in that period that they should be more traditional. There were more traditional roles, and there were home-based roles for women. So equally, Ada Lovelace was a pioneer and made a big impact.
So, following your answer now on what you mentioned about your male mentor and sponsors, what do you think are the most crucial steps that we can take to encourage more women to pursue careers in computing and related disciplines?
I think we need to start early. We need to make sure that we encourage young girls in school from a very early age to encourage them to understand what it means to be a computer scientist. And it doesn't have to start with programming. It could be simple projects, but projects which they will then engage in, not give them something. So I believe, one, we need to start early. The earlier we start, the better, and it will become more natural to them. Secondly, activities and initiatives which are exciting and fun, which they can see that they have a role and can excel in. And thirdly, those activities shouldn't be dictated just by us. We can give them a framework, we can give them a theme, for example, but then get them to identify the projects and make them relevant to computing and related subjects as well. So I think start early and pursue, but not just girls. I think it's for everybody, just generally in computing, but technology is not going to disappear. It's here to stay. We're only going to make more advances. So how can we ensure that we have the skills, the expertise, and the workforce and the diversity within that to bring along those big technological solutions of the future?
Mm-hmm. So, would you say that maybe we should change a bit the approach that we have?
What type of approach? So you mean how we start engaging with younger children, or?
Yeah, probably the messages that we send to young girls, for example, like constantly telling them that is a male-dominated field can be like can have the opposite effect, like making it look like it's not for them, instead of encouraging them to be interested in it.
Yeah, we definitely need to stop talking about it as a male-dominated field. It is a male-dominated field, and we can't get away from that. But I think more importantly, so dilute that message, but more importantly, amplify the message of there are people like me, so they can see the role models that they can associate themselves with, whether it be female, whether it be ethnicity, whatever it is, but that diversity. And I think that's really important. So, they can aspire to be like that person. So we need to make sure that we promote that in all our activities and make those individuals more visible, because then, they won't necessarily think about it as a male-dominated environment, because they will see that there is a representation which resonates with them.
The tech industry is evolving rapidly. How do you stay current with the latest advancements and trends, and also how do you incorporate them in your teaching and research?
Yeah, in my role, I don't teach anymore, unfortunately, which I think is, I miss that contact with students. But how do I keep abreast with the technological changes and advances in my field? Research, that's one area. Doctoral supervision, so that's really important, because you need to provide that guidance and that support and for doctoral students. But also, in terms of research, keeping in touch with my community, my research community. So I have established with others an international conference series, which is an IEEE conference which goes to different places internationally. So I'm a member of that. I am a program committee member for them as well. So I review papers, I participate in the conferences, I engage with my research community. I'm a fellow of the British Computer Society, so I'm aware of the trends, not just in terms of advances in research, but also industry advances. And then my role, although I don't teach, as an accreditation panel member for the British Computer Society. So review programs nationally and internationally for accreditation by the BCS.
From your perspective, what strategies can academic institutions and workplaces implement to foster a more inclusive and equitable environment? I know that you already mentioned before what we can do with young women, but if we focus, for example, in adult women, what we can do?
Yeah, I think it's that flexibility in the work environment, which is really, really important, but flexibility for both men and women, to be honest, and the intersections in terms of diversity. But it's about promoting diversity. It's about having initiatives such as the Athena Swan initiative, which looks at gender within the workplace and promotes that, and in particular in the STEM subjects, which is really, really important. So how do we fix that leaky pipeline where we have, good academics, but they don't progress in their careers, so good progression opportunities, but also it's getting that work-life balance in place. So it's Athena Swan, it's the Race Equality Charter as well, when we're looking at just broadly in terms of diversity as well. And to an extent, that gives institutions the opportunity to understand what they're doing well, and continue doing that, but also identify areas of improvement. And what the charters do is allow us as institutions to work out action plans to enable them to be to resolve, to try and minimize those issues. So I think, you know, initiatives, particularly in higher education institutions and in academia, initiatives like Athena Swan, Race Equality Charter, etc., are really, really important to maintain that diversity within academic institutions. And then, of course, we are a very supportive environment at DMU, and there are opportunities to allow flexibility in the workplace where we can as well, and that's supportive as well.
Do you have any advice for women starting their studies or career in computing?
My advice would be it's becoming less and less of a daunting area to study and work in. You know, I'm sure when you look back on the two examples of women that that are inspirational for me. So Ada Lovelace, definitely, that was an area, you know, where women weren't meant to be doing research, doing the things that she did, and then the NASA women. So for me, it's, you can do anything. The advice I would give to any person, so someone who's coming into study or someone who's going into the workplace, is you can do anything you want to do, and you can be anything you want to be, really. With women, and because of Ada Lovelace Day, we're talking about women, we have a lot to contribute. And it's different thinking, different ideas, not different thinking, but different ideas, and looking at things from a different perspective. So I would say to women, be brave and challenge, you know, in a positive way, challenge anything that is a potential obstruction for you. It may mean that we need to work a little bit more harder. And for female students who want to come into computing, it's to be bold, ask questions, you know, go into the classroom, ask the questions, make yourself visible, and not just to your peers within the classroom, but beyond the classroom as well. So we talked about, you know, someone like me as an initiative, so that they can go and stand up and say, look, I'm also studying computing. Because, and never be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a silly question. Everybody wants to know the answer, but they're not brave enough to ask that question. So it's be brave, ask those questions, be visible, and believe in yourself, and have that confidence to make sure that your contribution is not ignored.